confidence and growing strength in the air, we shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Oh, when it started, I was only 15. Everybody wanted to join up immediately. All the men went to war. We only had one bomb dropped on us the whole of the war, and that was in the country. A German bomber trying to get away from Liverpool, where they'd been bombing a lot, and that was, he dropped his bombs to lighten his load. My name is Joan Briggs. I joined in 1941. You could be a mobile wren and be sent all over, or you could become immobile and you would live at home. It was in the Isle of Man, where I was born, and the promenade is 3 miles long, and the Navy took it over as dry land ships. You could have 1 month's trial. If you didn't like it, you could leave, or you could stay on. If they thought you were good enough, they would keep you. And well, I was kept. But you do not join up and think you're going to do something fantastic straight away. They made us clean out cellars, spiders, goodness knows what, doing housework, and at 17 and a half, that didn't come very easy. But you got on and you did it, and they thought I was quite suitable. I was asked by one of the captains, because I'd done something that he had noticed, and he said, would I like to become a wine steward? And I said, oh yes, I would love that. Because of course the Isle of Man is full of hotels and boarding houses, and I thought, yes, very nice. And so I did, and that's how I became it. And so I had regular hours. We opened a ship. We opened this wonderful room for officers, and this bar which overlooked the sea and the promenade, very, very nice. And so that's what I became, and I stayed in that job the whole time, all through the war. And had a birthday. Our Wren officer had a lovely birthday cake made for me, and on my 21st birthday I was presented with a Dimple Hay whiskey bottle with a ship in it, in this bottle, and on the ship, the name of the ship was Joan. That was fantastic, wonderful present. I was busy polishing and dusting it, and it dropped, and it broke in smithereens, and I cried my eyes out all day. It was very sad. Yes, the only thing I had from there. Yes. Yes. So as soon as it was 21, I signed up to go abroad, and I thought, this is fantastic, coming off a small island and going abroad, and didn't know where I would go. Well, my post came through, and I was sent to Ayr in Scotland, and it was to a Fleet Air Arms station. I was in Ayr when war was declared over on the 8th of May, and so we had to march, the Wrens, everybody marched on the promenade, all in rows, and I was the marker on the front row, saluting the captain and everything. Now the Fleet Air Arms station, the aircraft carriers came into the up the Clyde, and they all embarked, all that had been on there out in the war, all the pilots, and they would come in on land in Ayr, on this site where I was, and they would be fed, and then there'd be a changeover, and so another lot would come on, and that's how that went. But while I was there as a wine steward, I had promotion come through, so I was made a leading wren. So with that, I had another posting. So I ended up in Dunoon in Scotland. So that was across the Clyde. So we had to get a boat from Gourock to Dunoon, and I went on HMS Curlew. Now HMS Curlew was affiliated with HMS Osprey, and HMS Osprey was the submarine depot. And so often you would see, coming up the Clyde from our rooms, we could look out and we could see a submarine coming up and then just disappearing round the corner, which was very nice to watch that. And so that was really lovely. We were stationed in this wonderful mansion called Glengar, and you walked up this massive driveway to this lovely mansion, and that's where I slept. But that was not the officers' quarters. The officers' quarters were further up, so my duty then became up on this other part of the Clyde, which was wonderful, and the officers were all lovely, because after the war I loved it that much, I stayed.
This is the BBC Home Service. Here is the news. The end of the war in Europe was officially announced by Mr. Churchill at 3 o'clock this afternoon in a broadcast from 10 Downing Street. He said, "Yesterday morning at 2:41 a.m. at General Eisenhower's headquarters, the representative of the German High Command and Government signed the act of unconditional surrender of all German land, sea and air forces in Europe to the Allied Expeditionary Force and to the Soviet High Command."
Oh, it was very exciting. I was on HMS Whitetail in air, and everybody, it was quite a lot of American soldiers there at the time, and stationed, and everybody was out marching along the promenade. And as I say, I was the marker on the front row, and so you didn't turn and salute the captain. I was the one to keep the whole straight line. Yes, very exciting, very exciting, yes. Came to October, and we were having a dance, and so I went. I met this sailor, and he said his name was Joan Briggs, and I said, oh. So he said, would you like to go to the pictures, or would you like to go for a walk? And I said, well, yes, we could go to the pictures. So we went down to the cinema in the town and enjoyed it, and then had a walk back again across by the Clyde. So all that was really lovely. And then he turned round one day and he said, well, I'm getting demobbed. And he said, because when he was a boy, it seems he'd had infantile paralysis, so it was polio, and which left one of his legs slightly shorter than the other. And of course he limped a little bit. That shook me a little bit. I thought, oh, I'm going to miss him. And he said, well, why don't you come down and meet my family, he said, and that would be real nice, which I did. So I came down, and because his parents were old, he was the youngest of a big family, he asked if I could get married there, so we got married there at Little Ponton. And both my children, when they arrived, my son Christopher and my daughter Linda, during that time, he came home one day and said he was joining the council. That really was how we came to become mayor, and so it just so happened to be quincentenary year, with royalty coming, So, very excited, of course. In fact, as he said himself, it was the icing on the cake to meet Queen Mother. And so, yes, in June she came, 1963. We entertained her to lunch. We then took her around the town to the college. Then we arrived at the college for tea with the Queen Mum, and the Nottingham Evening Post had handed her a photograph as we went in, a newspaper. And when we got inside and we were sat down for tea, she sat next to my husband and said, well, we better open this paper. I'll see what my horse has done in this race that was this afternoon. And so, of course, my husband was the same. He had had a bet on a horse. And she told us quite a few little jokes while she was there about the dogs and everything. And it turned out to be a wonderful day. We went round Wyndham Park in a Land Rover, just my husband and her. All the schools were lined up in Wyndham Park, and we rode around every one, and they were all waving with their little Union Jacks. So we took her back to the train, and she got on it and she waved goodbye to us. From then on, of course, life became hectic. My husband was a manager of an engineering works, Avering and Barford, and then Barford of Belton. Barford of Belton were about to close because one of the motor industries were going to take it over. We took the White Line in at Coastworth for 11 years and then retired at 65, both of us, and we've come here to live, and we were here until he passed away in 72. So that's really my life story.